The house wasn't even locked, yet those creatures disguised as humans still didn't dare step inside. All the woman could do was clutch the protective stone in her hand and silently pray she would live to see the morning. Every nightfall, the monsters gathered in the town. They fed on human organs and wouldn't leave until sunrise. To keep the townspeople safe, Jack rang the warning bell before sunset. As soon as the sound echoed through the streets, everyone rushed home, touching the protective stone at their doors out of habit. Even children barely 7 or 8 years old knew this rule, which said a lot about just how terrifying the nights were. Once the streets were completely empty, Jack finally returned to the station. The sign on the wall showed the town had gone 96 days without incident. But tonight, that record was about to end. Mark had been drinking heavily at the tavern, and the owner, out of options, let him crash there for the night. But Mark had a wife and daughter waiting at home. When he didn't return, his wife locked the front door and brought their daughter back inside. Later that night, as the little girl was about to fall asleep, she heard her grandmother's voice outside the window. But her grandmother had been dead for years. She pulled back the curtain and actually saw her standing there. The old woman was asking to be let in because it was cold outside. That one sentence was all it took to trick the child. Her mother tried desperately to stop her, but it was already too late. The next morning, Mark woke to find neighbors gathered outside his home. Before he could ask what was going on, Jack stormed over and slapped him across the face. Jack had warned him countless times that families with children had to nail their windows shut, because kids were the easiest targets. But Mark thought he could get away with ignoring it, and his carelessness had cost lives. Racked with guilt, Mark collapsed to his knees, but it was far too late. He now had to pay for his recklessness. Jack's rage wasn't just about the loss of Mark's wife and daughter. He knew that whenever someone died in town, strangers would wander in, and that always meant their fragile safety had been broken. Sure enough, on the day of the funeral, an RV drove into town. Jack immediately told the residents not to engage and went himself to speak with the driver. He learned they were just a lost family, so he pointed them toward the exit. But no matter how many times David tried, the RV kept circling back into town, watching them go around in endless loops. Jack didn't look surprised. He simply didn't tell them the truth, figuring they needed to face it on their own. Only after they accepted it could they have any chance of surviving the nights. But while circling, David's family met with disaster. Their RV flipped into the woods, trapping all 4 inside. David was pinned in the driver's seat. His wife was unconscious, their daughter unharmed. But their young son had a tree branch impaled through his leg, and he was losing blood fast. By then it was close to sundown. Jack was still setting up barricades in town, but when the family didn't return, he led a search party. Once they found the wreck, Jack immediately began a rescue. 3 of them were pulled out safely, but the boy was still stuck. His injuries were too severe to move, so Jack had to operate right there inside the wrecked RV. The problem was, there were only 40 minutes until dark, and the procedure would take at least an hour. With no other choice, Jack decided to stay behind with them for the night, sending his men back with the others. As night deepened, Jack held the protective stone in his hand, pinning his hopes on it. He hung it inside the RV and sealed every gap he could find. David, baffled, asked what was going on, and only then did Jack explain what was about to happen. But before he could finish, the boy started seizing, and almost immediately, the air outside filled with screeches. Jack looked out the window and saw the creatures closing in. More and more figures emerged from the darkness, and even Jack, usually the calmest of them all, felt his skin crawl. Whether they could survive the night had become the ultimate test.